I'm Brad Hafford, archaeologist at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm here at the ancient city of Nimrud in northern Iraq. We are approaching the northwest palace of Assurnasirpal II, and this was largely reconstructed, but ISIS blew it up in 2015. So you can see that there is a lot of destruction visible behind me. The original approach, this is one of the gates that's partly preserved, so we're going to go over that way. It was protected by large sculptures of winged bulls called lamassu, and there were also a number of original reliefs in here, and those were all destroyed. We can see that there are piles of those sculptures here. They're covered with geotextile, being protected as much as they can be until potentially we can reconstruct things like that. Smithsonian has been working on that. And we have a rather large gateway here, and this was not the largest, but the stone bowls were along the entryway, and relief carvings were in front of that along the side. We'll see one of them that is still in place here in just a moment. So here's the gateway. Imagine giant bowls on either side of that door, and over here we can see a winged genie, Apkallu figure, protective being. He's got horned headdress, he's got wings, he's got a kind of pine cone in his hand, and one of these, well, buckets. You can't quite see it anymore. You can see some of the preserved or attempting to preserve the pieces. The fragments went everywhere. We've been collecting some in our own trenches, nearly 100 meters away. We get a lot of bricks of Assurnasirpal II, of course, because he built a lot of things here. Makes a lot of claims, says he's the great king, the mighty king, king of the world. He wasn't shy about claiming things like that. We might be able to see a bit more in here, but I will show some of what we can see. Barrel bombs, I think, were placed a little bit farther ahead here. They did a great deal of damage, and that is obvious. And of course, they were trying to create their own version of the past, to eliminate our kind of shared cultural history in order to make their own history. And that was, well, wrong. We need to identify with what has gone before so that all of us can understand the history of humanity.
They blew it up.
You blew it up!
They blew it all to hell.
Damn
dirty Daesh.
I'm inside some of the only standing portions of the Northwest Palace right now. This was all reconstructed in the 1970s and then destroyed in 2015 by ISIS. We can see behind me some of the archways that are still intact from the reconstructions, but the roof is completely gone and most of the building itself has been utterly destroyed. We will attempt to rebuild this. It's going to be a many year project. It's going to be difficult to do, but it's a challenge. I think it's an important one to try, and I think we will succeed. It's just going to take a long time. So let's take one more look at what the Northwest Palace looks like. This is the Northwest Palace of Assurnasirpal II from a different angle, and we can see a little bit more of what it's all about from here. In the background, there's a long central room that was the throne room. So you would have come in from the entrance back way over there, gone through a giant courtyard, and then ended up in the throne room, if you were lucky enough, I suppose, for an audience. Nearby, there were the tombs of the queens. They were actually located inside the palace under the floor, and they had some pretty amazing things in there, a whole lot of wealth. Also in the background, you can see a well. It's the round thing way in the back over there. There were 4 of those inside the palace, and there were a lot of things found inside them. Agatha Christie, I believe in her autobiography, she talks about when the workers came up one day, because she was working here with her husband Max Mallowan for quite some time, and she often was cleaning the ivories. She was also taking most of the photographs of the artifacts. She was quite the photographer and film developer, etc. Well, she tells a story that the workers came in and said, "We found a lady in the well." And apparently that was a very impressive ivory of a woman. And yet, of course, when you hear a lady in the well, you think someone has fallen in. They did actually find some bodies in one of the wells that had been there a long, long time. Not quite sure why, but it was probably after the destructions that they tossed the bodies down there. Of course, this destruction was all done by ISIS in 2015, as I've talked about. And there's geotextile covering some of the reliefs that were original. But all of the walls had been rebuilt, and then you can see the twisted metal from the explosion, because they had a roof over this thing that was concrete. We get bits of concrete scattered all across the site. Well, this was the central area, and they placed bombs right in here, I believe, and it just sent everything flying. They put a propaganda video out about it, and we have observed that to try to figure out where things might have gone. How can we put all of this back together? It's a monumental task, but we're going to do it because it's important to rebuild. Yeah. Trying to think about how to fix all this, even how to map it, because I need to try to come in here, put points in, and show what's left of it. It's just such a huge task. Anyway, thought I would show you the state of things here in Nimrud, in this large northwest palace that was excavated by many different people. Layard was here, Austin Henry Layard, William Kennett Loftus, Hormuzd Rassam, Max Mallowan. They all looked at parts of this thing. It's a very big building. And that's why they rebuilt this one, to show the greatness of the Assyrian Empire and to have people visit. And we hope to do that again. Well, I hope that you will join me again to learn more about things like this on Artifactually Speak. I'm Brad Hafford. See you then.